What if I told you that all of your preconceived notions about Scrappy and Shakira's relationship are about to be completely revealed? You heard me correctly, Scrappy. I'm talking about unexpected DNA findings, family betrayals, and explosive truths that will cause you to doubt everything. Requires Shakira to provide a DNA result, but why now, after all this time? Is it the pressure from his controlling mother, Mama T, or is there something more sinister at play? Wait a minute. Don't tell me it's only about the baby's paternity. It's much worse than that savage man who has been openly. Now that he's been pulled into a tempest that could ruin everything he's built while defending Shakira, what actually transpired between them and what secrets were involved? This is about more than just a DNA test. It's about treachery, trust, and a family at the breaking point. Is Shakira concealing that Scrappy who was once so convinced now doubts? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're just watching, you're going to see one of the most amazing things that will happen next. The most shocking disclosures in reality TV history. But believe me, this is not your typical scandal. We've all heard the stories and witnessed the drama. But now, my friends, this is Scrappy's DNA test drama. And it's just a matter of time until the truth falls like a wrecking ball on a mansion full of falsehoods. Going to get messier from here. Who is Scrappy? Well, let's remind you, he's the man who has been at the center of Atlanta's most vibrant hip-hop and love scenes. Contentious plots, a man who virtually attracts trouble. But what happens when the drama isn't just for the cameras, but also for the family? Occurs when Scrappy and Shakira, whom he has been openly supporting for years, go from being the ideal coupling to a total train crash. We're going to delve deeply into this subject, so hold on tight. What do we know about this couple? From the surface, everything seemed to be. The Dream Team, a reality TV pair with a child, was made up of Shakira and picture-perfect Scrappy. Their relationship seemed destined for a happy ending. However, Scrappy's relationship with Mama D has never been simple, and let's face it, Shakira, his companion, has been there for him through thick and thin. When it comes to Scrappy's personal life, Mama D isn't exactly known for being silent, but if you've been living through it, this is where things get sticky. For months, fans, cast members, and even the streets have been talking about the paternity question whispered beneath a rock. One major question is if the infant is indeed Scrappy's. Can you imagine the strain that would be placed on someone in his position? The whispers began as harmless enough hearsay. Occasionally, but what started out as innocent rumors quickly became into a full-scale family conflict, and the devoted man persisted in raising those doubts. Apart from that, Shakira had supported him. They had a child together, and they were a family, so there was no reason to believe these accusations. But as the pressure mounted, growing, particularly from Mama D's Scrappy, he began to doubt everything as the possibility of a DNA test began to sneak into his thoughts. And let's face it, his doubts were sparked not just by Mama D's voice, but also by Shakira's quiet moments, which said a lot. If you think about it, Shakira wasn't quite. She helped the matter by keeping quiet and dismissing inquiries about the baby's paternity whenever they were raised. Let's face it, silence can be more detrimental than words in these kinds of relationships. Scrappy could sense something wasn't right in his gut, but he didn't want to be, eventually, the person who made a scene and made snap judgments. Thought, maybe I'm just overthinking this. Those persistent questions became intense fears that he was being tricked and that his own lineage was being questioned by both Mama D and the lady he loved. The worst part is that as the event progressed, their tension increased to the point that it was impossible to ignore the supporters on social media who weren't helping either. We're analyzing every exchange, every look, and whether Shakira was concealing something or whether she was indeed the devoted partner Scrappy believed her to be. There was more to the tale than we had previously realized, and the problem is that Shakira wasn't merely dodging the questions. She was really making them worse because she was not honest about her actions. Her silence and Scrappy's own fears fostered mistrust. So what happens when the strain grows unbearable? Scrappy eventually snaps, and the instigator, Mama D, didn't help things by informing her son. Unequivocally stated, "You need to take a DNA test." She didn't mince words. She didn't trust Shakira. Not to mention that, due to pressure from the fans, who were all speculating online, Scrappy found himself torn between his mother's insistence on the truth and his allegiance to Shakira. However, when Scrappy ultimately made the decision to undergo the DNA test, it was not only about identifying the biological father, it was also about carefully examining everything. He believed he understood his family and relationship. It was about more than simply the baby. It was about loyalty, trust, and the destructive power of. It was a time of reckoning for Scrappy because of the secrets that had been eating away at him from the inside, and the test was only the beginning of. The test wasn't simple, and Scrappy was tortured by the notion of what was going to be a huge unraveling. He had already decided to. He had to write, but with Mamadou always urging in his ear to do what was right, Scrappy started to see the paternity test not simply because he had to trust Shakira, as a test of his future as well as his commitment to his family. What if the test revealed that everything he believed to be true was false? What would that do to his? The stakes could not be higher in his relationship with Shakira and what it would entail for his relationship with Mama D. But before we get into what occurs next, let's pause for a moment and consider everything we've just discussed. Scrappy's world was destroyed, his devotion to Shakira was wobbly, and there was tension in his connection with Mama D, and he suddenly started to wonder if this was all staged or if it was real. Could the DNA test actually alter what Scrappy believed he knew? Could the test findings destroy the once perfect family? If you thought that Scrappy and Shakira's conflict couldn't get any worse, guess again. Just when you thought that everything would be resolved with a tidy little bow, the narrative takes a sinister turn as it is revealed that the DNA test Scrappy consented to was going to do more than simply provide an answer. It was going to tear apart the entire fabric of. It was going to reveal a web of lies, secrets, and emotional betrayal. Let's be honest. It wasn't just a test of blood, it was a test of trust. Since no one took the claims seriously when they originally surfaced, cast members and fans questioned whether the baby was indeed Scrappy's, but that's just the way things work in the reality TV industry. Nevertheless, the rumors quickly evolved into something more significant and sinister. Under pressure from the general public, supporters, and most importantly, Mama D, this unimportant rumor was transformed into a full-fledged family conflict that may potentially ruin the world of Scrappy. The man who had previously supported Shakira was suddenly filled with uncertainties. These worries weren't limited to hearsay, they also included the silence. Shakira's actions, specifically her avoidance of inquiries regarding the child's paternity, left her feeling as though she was concealing something. And it's difficult to ignore that persistent feeling that keeps you up at night. So the DNA test was more than simply a paternity test. It became a test of loyalty, a way to determine who was sincere and who was keeping secrets. But the story didn't end there. Oh no, people, things were about to become much dirtier. Let's dissect it. The public's response to Scrappy being caught up in this emotional battle between Shakira and his mother was. Social media was ablaze with rumors, and leaked claims from unidentified sources started to surface, alleging that Shakira had a history of. Whether accurate or not, these allegations of cheating on Scrappy during their relationship started to fan the flames. The narrative was no longer solely about a DNA test. It was a full-blown scandal, and now that he was in the spotlight, Scrappy had to deal with the most scathing critics in the world. One person familiar with the matter said that Shakira's actions had been a persistent red signal for months, according to the course, which wished to remain nameless. Unaccounted for late-night excursions with pals and hazy tales of her being tenacious due to love and devotion made her not believe any of it. But when the rumors were widely known, he was unable to ignore them any longer, and that's when the genuine revelation came. It seems Shakira had been connected to another man, many guys, to be precise. The sources disclosed that Shakira's background wasn't as spotless as it appeared to be. The rumors about whether this was a true love tale or just another instance intensified as she dated Scrappy, not just one, not two, but more men. Underneath the glitzy reality TV facade of adultery and treachery, and when additional information surfaced, the outrage from Scrappy's followers was unimaginable. Angry, expressing their indignation on social media, asking how she could have done this to him. They didn't want to think that Shakira, the woman who appeared to be so devoted and affectionate on TV, but the evidence was mounting, and Scrappy's reputation suffered greatly. There are many who argue that he should have recognized the warning signs more clearly. However, the drama didn't stop there. According to people close to the family, Mama D, who was never afraid to voice her beliefs, took matters into her own hands. Began to control the situation by becoming more like a controlling mother than normal. Mama D, who had always been somewhat of a force in her concerns, caused Scrappy's life to spiral out of control. She wasn't merely encouraging him to take the DNA test, she was actively pressuring him to face. At this time, Shakira's former head sprint left Scrappy divided between his devotion to Shakira and his urgent demand for clarification. Emotionally committed in the relationship, but it was almost difficult to deny the reality any longer due to pressure from his mother and the expectations of the public. The DNA test was set for the day of the trial because long Scrappy was forced into a tight spot and his faith in Shakira was being brutally tested. As the exam drew near, things became even more tense, and fans were eagerly awaiting the results. But the main question on everyone's mind was what? When it happened next, the public was already divided. Some supporters continued to back Scrappy in the hopes that the test would resolve the matter, while others had their doubts. Shakira has been bracing herself for the worst, according to unidentified insiders who said that she knew the truth was on the horizon. For the consequences, but let's change the subject a bit. The issue was getting too huge to ignore, and public figures were beginning to voice their opinions. News organizations, celebrity gossip columns, and even competing reality stars started to voice their thoughts on the matter. Some claimed that Scrappy was simply another man in a toxic relationship, while others claimed that his controlling mother was manipulating him. Some even went so far as to say that, to the extent that Scrappy's own intentions and actions were being examined through leaked text messages, Shakira's history was not the only thing that was dubious. According to reports, tension was rising between Scrappy and Shakira as they displayed heated fights and covert threats. The test's findings were now there. There was only one thing that might resolve the tension, and everyone was anticipating the day when Scrappy would finally receive it. He was looking for answers. Would the test validate his worst suspicions, or would Shakira be exonerated of all charges? Hold on to your seats, because the DNA results have now arrived, and with it comes the catastrophic aftermath that will completely alter Scrappy Shakira's hand. Everyone concerned, we've witnessed the escalation of family conflict, the accusations, the rumors, and the struggle for trust. But now we're going to witness the results of these disclosures, and believe me, you won't believe what follows. So, what happened? Was Scrappy's paternity verified, or did they? You won't believe how the test tore their family apart, but Scrappy's worst fears came true as the test results validated his assumptions, and the result wasn't what he had hoped for. In other words, the news that Shakira's kid wasn't his affected him hard. Of bricks, leaving him utterly broken. For months, he had been standing up for Shakira in an attempt to quell the accusations, but now that the harsh reality had arrived, staring him in the face, Scrappy was unsure of what to do because everything he believed to be true about his love, his family, and his future was falling apart. Shakira's response was completely out of character, and the test results weren't just a smack in the face, they were a full-on gut hit. She hadn't intended it to come to this, but now that the cat was out of the bag, there were no tears of sorrow or apologies, just a straightforward admission of the truth. "I didn't want it to happen this way," Shakira remarked in a shaky voice. But the truth is that I wasn't sure. I didn't want it to happen this way, to harm you, but I was also skeptical. Now, the test validates what we both should have known all along. Scratchy stared there in disbelief, realizing that he had trusted her, guarded her, and all of a sudden everything fell apart, making his heart feel as though it were being torn from his chest. What was worse, though, was the Mama D, who had initially encouraged Scrappy to do the DNA test, was standing there, looking at her with a satisfied expression. With a tone of relief and validation, Mama D added, "You see, son, I told you, you had to confront the truth that she wasn't who you thought she was, and now when we are certain that it is time to move on." Scrappy glanced at his mother in shock, wondering if this was a response he was expected to have, or if there was something inside of him that wanted to shout in anger at the injustice of it all. But he also knew that Marmody was correct for all of her meddling, and for telling him the truth, even though he didn't want to hear it. She had forced him to confront the realities all along. Now, let's discuss the legal ramifications of this drama. You can bet your last dollar that this issue wasn't limited to reality TV. Attorneys were already hovering, prepared to intervene if there were any financial. After all, the paternity discovery sparked arguments because it wasn't just about a failed relationship. It was also about parental rights and the future of. Even though the child wasn't his, Scrappy had been involved with the child for a considerable amount of time, and this might potentially result in a legal battle. In addition to the public outcry, the once-adored reality TV star Scrappy is currently embroiled in a custody or visitation dispute. Political quagmire, his reputation was in jeopardy, and there were reports of public personalities separating, sponsorships backing away, and brand deals being cancelled themselves from him in reality TV, where appearances are crucial. Scrappy had recently suffered a severe setback, and his career in the business was now in jeopardy. In the wake of the startling disclosures, Scrappy was wondering what he could ever trust again as he sat down with Shakira. Would they be able to mend their connection with her once more? More importantly, what about their child, Shakira, who, although being clearly shaken, was determined to make things work? She said she was sorry for the betrayal, but it seemed like no one was listening. Scrappy's anguish was too intense to be fresh, and even though a part of him wanted to forgive her because he was aware of the harm done, but there was also the issue of Marmody. Would she support Scrappy as he dealt with this new era in his life, or had she before? Getting ready for the upcoming family drama was evident that Scrappy's choices, future developments would be impacted not only by his feelings, but also by the constant presence of his mother's. What impact would Scrappy ultimately have? Authority over his relationships and life, or would Marmody's impact persist? Determine his decisions. Then what about the DNA? Findings have been released, and Scrappy's world has been inverted. What does this mean? Imply for Shakira and his relationship? Will it ever be possible for them to reconstruct what's been damaged, or is this the final line for them? And how is Marmody doing? Is she the protagonist or the antagonist in this? The repercussions from the nasty drama is only starting, and we'd like to know what you believe that Scrappy's choice to demand. Is the DNA test accurate, or has he simply prepared the ground for a thorough catastrophe? How do you feel about Shakira's? Does she merit forgiveness for her actions? Is it too much to bear this betrayal? Tell us in the comments section below, and remember to use the like button if you believe that this drama is only going to begin to subscribe in order to remain informed about all of the startling controversies on reality TV and gossip from behind the scenes, since we will continue to present you with the facts. Stay put whether it's messy or not. Await additional updates, as this tale is far from finished, and will update you regarding what's actually happening behind the scenes. Now might be the time when alters everything for Shakira's Scrappy and their whole family. Keep an eye out, and thank you for watching as always.